which is powered by AI. And this companion, it is with you at all times. It travels with you. Uh, it's and it observes you and your work continuously. And that's the world that we're going to be living in. To actually be able to have a companion like that, you have to think about like ways to sort of fully digitize, your work life. Think about you are, having a conversation with somebody at the water cooler. Well, like, that conversation, if it was about work, it was about, like, there's a meaningful discussion that happened, this companion needs to know that that conversation happened. So you have these, so we believe that, like, in work you have these sort of ways to capture at all times, like, what you are doing, what you're working on. From recording, like, these, informal casual conversations that you have, to recording every meeting, to, of course, like, going into each one of your enterprise systems and seeing, what emails am I writing, what, messages on Slack that I'm sending to someone, what documents am I authoring right now, what documents I'm reading. All of that, like, is going to be observed. And when you think about this companion now, which has made all of these observations, it has captured every second of your work life. And now, if it has its ability to actually start to understand data and concepts at a different level. So it's not just about, just keeping track of what you're doing, at what times, but you're trying to actually now, you're taking all of these observations and you're trying to now understand a little bit more about me as an individual. Like, what role do I play? What are my key objectives? Key goals for this year, for this month. In fact, for today, like, what are the tasks that I need to be working on? What are the actual, like, you have to sort of understand at a task level, at a job level, like, things that I need to do. And then you observe, like, how I do those tasks, and you're learning from that behavior. And then that sort of, empowers you to now, build these experiences in the future where now my companion is actually proactive. It's no longer reactive. It's not just a system, where I can go and ask it to actually help me with a question or a task. The companion actually understands my work life in such great detail that it will actually, know that, like today these are the 4 things I need to work on, and it will know that, hey, maybe those 2 I can actually just do, that the companion can do on my behalf, and it actually keeps it ready for me. So that's the world that we're going to be going in, where every person has this deeply personal companion. You in fact have a, like, for people who get worried about security and privacy, I think we'll also see development of, like, maybe laws or regulations where, imagine that the privilege that you have, between you and your companion is the same as an attorney-client privilege or a doctor-patient, conversation. So you don't have to be worried about it, but, like, that's where we're going to be going to, where we'll have this deeply personal, proactive companion that does most of our work for us, helps us, like, organize our day, helps us, be our coach, and continuously help us achieve, 10x more in our work lives. So that's the future. That's the future of, of work in general, and we have to see, like, who actually builds, the best companion. Like, hopefully, it'll be us.
That's amazing. So many things to take away from that. I think one of which is the softer side of just how companies work. You have so much in terms of politics, right, from different organizations and fiefdoms, and a lot of that is because the context of how they understand something is not clear because you have a sender receiver type environment. I think this is so much power to, one, put a lot of those barriers at ease, and also, two, allowing people to focus on the higher order set of work that they should be, which I think is such a step function of where a lot is talked about in terms of productivity improvement of, am I generating a document? Am I generating more information? Have I created something to assist my work? This has the ability to anticipate and has that ability to constantly be ambient to know where and how you should focus your time and attention. And it's hugely powerful. You touched on a point there about security. So with your Glean Go event, which is great, actually a good friend of mine helped to produce your guys' event, which is cool to see. He gave me a little bit of snippet of what's coming up. But you talk about security, you partner with Palo Alto Networks, and we think about this proliferation of agents. I think security is going to be a whole new level in terms of as these things get created more and more. Talk to me a little bit about that partnership and just how people should think, because you touched a little bit about how the importance of security is, but maybe you can elaborate a little bit more.
Yeah. So we have, like, we talked a little bit about how Glean is a more powerful version of ChatGPT inside a company. But the talk of the town today is, of course, agents. Like, you're looking at, big sort of units of work, and, as an enterprise, you're trying to actually automate that work through AI. Like, you want, agents for that actually now run, like, many different business processes inside a company. If you think about an enterprise, that has, say, 100 or 1,000 different applications that they use today to run their business, you can expect that in the future they will have tens of thousands of agents, like, an order of magnitude more agents out there, and a lot of business processes are now running, are actually being executed by these agents. So you have to think about the governance model of, how these agents work. So one is, like, you can think of agents running on behalf of humans, inside the company. And if that is the case, for example, if I run an agent that, writes a self-assessment, as I was talking about before, that agent doesn't have an identity of its own, but it runs, like, on behalf of whoever executes that agent. So if I run it, it actually runs, with my credentials. And if the agent is running with my credentials, it should only have access to information, to data, to actions inside the enterprise that I have. And so you have to sort of make sure that as you build these agent systems, that your access controls, you limit those agents to, like, the right level of capability based on the humans, in which context they operate on. But that's one way to think about agents. The other way to think about agents is that agents have their own identity. And when you think about your workforce, you have, say, you can say that you have 1,000 employees, and then you have, another 2,000 agents. And you think of humans and agents at the same level, like, in terms of identity. So then you actually have to develop these mechanisms where every agent, is treated like a human, like, they get authorizations to different systems inside your company. Just like, how you do RBAC for people based on their roles, you actually do RBAC for agents based on the role that they are playing. And so you have to sort of make sure that when you build these agents, you don't forget all of those things. These are fundamental concepts. You have to bring security from the get-go, like, in the very first agent that you actually build inside the company, and as you evolve from there. And then, like, since agents actually are now running such a large part of your business process, you have to make sure that, like, new attacks are emerging. People are doing, like, things like prompt injection, like, you can fool a system to actually take your, internal data and post it outside. So you have to also, like, be very careful about when agents are building these, when agents have so much access to take actions, to read data, to export data, and how do you actually build those guardrails, in that. So like, our partnerships with security companies are on those fronts, like, how do we take some of the core technologies that they've built, in the past to sort of protect enterprises from human activity, like, some of that extends now into agent activity.
That's great. All right, we'll end on one more question and then open up for Q&A here in a second. So as you evolve, you talked a lot about this personalization, so the ambient nature, so security and policy that's adaptive. These systems are going to be much more personalized, the UI, the UX, the experience of how someone interacts. Like, what are you guys thinking about as this evolves? I mean, this is an opportunity to unleash a new way of compute or a new way of interactivity. So maybe any thoughts on where things might head?
Yeah, there's this concept of UI gravity, and what does the future look like? Does the future look like a browser with 60 tabs on it, like, where I'm trying to keep track of all my pending items? Is it like, the 20 different applications, that I go in? I think, these interfaces are going to fundamentally evolve. I think voice is going to become a big part of, these interfaces, and also just, the same conversational, experience like that you sort of get from tools like ChatGPT today. But maybe like let's I'll give you a few examples to sort of see like how this UI is going to evolve. Imagine like in Bay Area, like I'm guessing most of you are from here, and you hate your commute, like it's long, like probably like like to get to your office takes you like 45 minutes, and if that's the case, and you start your day in the morning, commuting 45 minutes. How about like if you had your companion, your AI companion, be there in the car with you, like you're not alone anymore. Like I think you'll get the carpool credits for that, from the government. But at least you have somebody in the car. It knows that today is going to take you 43 minutes, and it also knows what your day looks like, what are all the different meetings you're going to have, and it knows that for some of those meetings you're prepared, and for some of those you're not, and it can actually take those ones that you're not prepared for, what documents you need to read for them, and it'll start to give you that context. It creates that 43-minute, you call it a podcast or call it a getting ready session, where it's just like getting you up to speed. So by the time you actually land into the office, you don't feel like you wasted those 45 minutes.
I love that.
And so that's an interface which is like fundamentally it's voice driven, and it also has to be conversational in the sense that maybe the companion gets it wrong, like I don't even care about this meeting, so I don't want to actually learn about what's happening there, so I can actually stop it, I can actually tell it to move on to some other topic, but that's the kind of interactivity that you can expect. Similarly, I'm somebody finds me in a by the water cooler and they ask me a question, and I feel like well, this is important stuff, but I don't want to actually be recording everything about every word that I speak, but I want to actually do it at that time. And how do you do it? Do I go and open an app on the phone?
Yeah.
Do I open my laptop and hit record somewhere? You have to sort of rethink these interfaces. So I don't even know the answer to that. I know the desire that I have, which is that if it was a conversation that was about work and was important to record, it just automatically happens. I didn't have to do anything.
Yeah.
I don't know how we'll do it, but so these interfaces will fundamentally evolve over time, and a lot of our work will become more like, well, I get to actually tell somebody how to get something done for me.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to go and log into 20 different websites.
Yeah, that's awesome. I really appreciate that. All right, so let's open it up for the audience here. I've got the first one here.
Thank you, Arvind. That was a very insightful conversation. I have a two-part question, but it's mainly focused around first things first. As we think about organizations trying to be very guarded with their data, very well aware of what Slack was trying to do, how do you imagine organizational information bases changing and enabling things like Glean over the next couple of years? And as agents go from just providing or answering questions to actually taking action, like say for example approving an invoice, how do you imagine guardrails evolving in that kind of environment?
Yeah, so I think the first question is about a lot of things that we talked about was to be able to build a tool like Glean, you have to connect with all of the enterprise systems. You have to be able to see data inside those systems. And what happens if individual applications start to close down their systems and remove those APIs? First, we don't believe that's going to actually happen, because when you use these software products inside your business, you are, as a customer, putting your own data into those systems, and you have full rights to actually access that data back. It's actually, I don't even know if it is even legal, for a customer to say that, well, you put some data in my system and I can't actually take access to anymore. If somebody is providing you a software application, they have the right to actually, charge for that data access, because it consumes resources on their side. But otherwise, it's customers' data, they own it, and we live in a very, competitive industry, and you won't work with a vendor that's going to lock your data down, right? So that's, I think, ultimately comes down to competition, and luckily in tech industry we have no shortage of that. The second part of the question, as agents start to do more serious things, for example, they're taking actions, they are approving an invoice. Like, what if, somebody sent me a expense report of $5 million and the agent approves it? So how do you put the right guardrails in place? On that question, there are few things to consider. Like, first, I think for these agents are going to be built by your teams, your employees, your business owners, folks who own that business process. They will actually start to bring agents to automate some of those business processes. So they will actually communicate these guardrails. And what you need is actually a good agent building system where inputting these guardrails is actually super easy. Right? The real value of AI is going to come when I don't need to be a software engineer, a technologist, an AI guru to actually build an agent. I just need to actually know that, well, I do this piece of work. Like, for example, I can be a lawyer and I review contracts and I redline them to highlight risks. So if that's my job, I should be, as a person on the legal team, be able to say that, hey, I want, AI go and build an agent for me that actually does the first version of redlining for me. And when you do that, this is how I want you to think about it. And you just speak, you just talk to it, describe, instruction in natural language, and the agent then should get built. So similarly for that invoice, example, the finance person should be able to say that, hey, these are my policy docs, these are the approval frameworks, and these are the things since this is new, I don't know what what you're going to do. I want you to be operate in a very restricted fashion. I want you to you can actually bring a human in the loop, or you can say that you can do maybe you can approve policies until you can approve automatically as long as certain criteria is met, maybe the amount is no more than some amount. And so as long as if you make it easy for people to express those guardrails, and then the agent platform actually enforces it, then I think you're in a fine shape, and humans will sort of drive the activity safely.